was thinking today, I've never met anyone who didn't enjoy a good meal. And Jesus was no exception. In fact, one might say that Jesus was both famous and infamous for his meals. All through the Gospels, he is portrayed as eating, of course, with his immediate disciples, with his followers, and with the crowds. But also, we are told that he ate with tax collectors and sinners. And many of his opponents criticized him for being a glutton and a drunkard and complained about how bad the company was that he kept. But I think Jesus used his meals as kind of nonverbal parables. That is, symbolic actions intended to make a point. And the gospel that we heard a couple of Sundays ago about the miraculous feeding of the 5,000, I think is an example of that. The same basic story is told in all four gospels. So obviously, the early writers of the gospels considered this particular story to be important and something that they wanted everyone to remember. It was considered extremely important by the early church. And the way in which Jesus' actions are described are also important and significant. Remember how it is described in the story. Looking up to heaven, he said the blessing, broke the loaves, and gave them to the crowd. Now, where have you heard that phrase repeated over and over again? Obviously, at the consecration of the Mass. And so the early church saw a connection between Jesus' words and actions at the Last Supper and the meal, the multiplication of the loaves and the fish. Sounds like God's calling me to church. So much so that the fish became a symbol of the Eucharist and was placed over the homes of the early Christians where the Eucharist was celebrated. But I think there's an even deeper significance to this story. Jesus' response to the disciples when they ask him to dismiss the crowds so that they can go back into the villages and buy some food, what does Jesus say? He says, "Give them some food yourselves." And then the disciples protest and say, "Well, all we have here are a few loaves of bread and a few fish, rather measly and insignificant." I think there is a twofold message here. First of all, there is an intimate connection between the Eucharist and caring for people's basic human needs. If our celebration of the Eucharist does not lead us to service of our neighbor, then I think we're missing an important point about what the Eucharist is all about. Secondly, and this is equally important, our efforts are insignificant and they are measly unless we unite them with Jesus Christ. We're not social workers. Social work is good, but that is not what we are called to be. We care for others not because they are Catholic, but because we are Catholic. The predicate for all the good deeds that we do is Jesus Christ. And when we unite our efforts with him, we can and we do work miracles. There is no hunger, human or spiritual, that is beyond satisfaction if we take our meager resources and unite them to Christ and allow Christ to do his work through us.